In our first act, we build a life. In our second act, we build a relationship with the person who is living that life. It is your relationship with yourself that changes everything in your second act. For decades, we show up for everyone else, for our careers, for our children. I mean, we kind of have to, we're parents. For our partners, our responsibilities. We become reliable, capable, needed, which feels great to be needed. But somewhere along the way, a quiet question starts to surface. What about me? The second act isn't about reinvention for applause. It's about coming home to yourself. So sip on this. Before you change your career, your relationship, your routine, you must look at the relationship you have with yourself. You might not want to, but it's necessary because that relationship determines everything. Welcome back to Sip on This, the show where we talk about love, life, and all the messy, beautiful transitions that make us human. If this is your first time joining me, then welcome. I am your host, Deirdre Haggerty. I am an ICF certified coach and founder of Coaching with Ms. D, which offers life, relationship, and career coaching to align your values and vision of life. I am so excited you are joining me today to have a conversation, coffee in hand, as we chat about life, careers, relationships, especially the one you have with yourself, and all the little things that can shape who we are. I will not lecture you or tell you what to do. It's just the two of us in a coffee shop, chatting about topics that make us laugh or drive us nuts or help us understand that the relationship with yourself is the one, the most important one that changes everything in your second act. So, first act versus your second act. In our first act, most of us are building externally. We chase stability. For me, it was marriage. We chase validation. We do that through our partners, our families, our friends, our peers, validation that we're doing a good job at work. We chase the version of success we were taught to chase. And there's nothing wrong with that. But as I say in the beginning, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but I am going to tell you my version of what happened to me with that. Because every time I saw my dad, God rest his soul, every time I saw him or spoke to him on the phone, these were almost his precise exact words. I want better for you, Deirdre. I want better. You deserve better. Better for whom? Because for me, I was happy. I was very happy. As a matter of fact, I saw a cute little TikTok yesterday. It was like one of the first things I saw when I woke up in the morning. And to be honest with you, I never look at my phone first thing. I keep it away. But it was one of those things. I didn't just wake up. I was doing something else, but I was kind of still in bed. And then I reached for my phone and I picked up TikTok, and there was a 12-second reel about if you woke up in 1987 and Casey Kasem was playing and it was a Madonna song, and you realized it was all a dream. It was a Sunday morning in 1987. What's the first thing you would do? And immediately, there was no hesitation in my thought process here at all. Immediately, I would contact my best friend who passed 3 years after that in a horrific car crash. I would contact her and tell her that, oh my God, I married Frank and we have 4 gorgeous sons. And then I would run down the stairs and say the same thing to my mother. And it was this really cute story I wrote on social media for this particular post because my past was beautiful. All of the things that led me to this point. And at the end of it, at the end of my version of what I would do, I said, I want to go back to the future. Ironically, a movie I grew up on. I want to go back because I loved it. Love it. Not past tense. I love it. But at some point, when I reached midlife, the metrics started to change. And it's not that I want to change the steps that got me here, but it was no longer about achievement. It was about alignment. Now, if I would have maybe seen that post maybe 15 years ago in my late 30s, early 40s, I would not, maybe I wouldn't have said that. Maybe that wouldn't have been my reaction. But now I know it is, because I know I had to take those steps and have all of that experience to get to this part and to really learn to love myself. It became no longer about proving. And maybe that had something to do with my father's passing. I wasn't proving anything to anybody. I just wanted to do for me. I now needed to prove things to myself and find the peace in that. And that's that alignment I talk about so often, in your values and your vision of life and alignment. You know, maybe people who come in and out of these podcasts, maybe if it's your first time, maybe if you've seen me before and you've heard me say that, that's the alignment. It's not about proving anything to anybody else. It's about proving it to myself. It's about making me happy and finding those things that bring me peace. So there's a quote that's often attributed to Mark Nepo. I hope I said that correctly. I always mess that name up. If you're watching on YouTube, this is his book, The Book of Awakening. And speaking of my journey, I did not discover this book. And if you're watching on YouTube, you could see it. If you're listening, you can't see it. It's The Book of Awakening, Mark Nepo. It is daily passages of inspirational quotes. I don't think I have. I was gifted this by my son at Christmas. Every day there's something that speaks to me. Every day. Again, this hits differently now that I'm in my 50s. It really, truly does. I don't think it would have done the same for me when I was in my 20s, or if I was in my 20s when this came out. At least for me. So I want to emphasize, though, there is no age limit, time span for your first or your second act. I am in my second act. I am in my mid-50s. That doesn't necessarily, late 50s now, that doesn't necessarily mean that's where you are. So if this resonates for you, great. If it doesn't, then this isn't the podcast for you. For me, it took many years, like I mentioned earlier, and that TikTok, of lived experience and growth to understand that the journey, my journey, the journey of a lifetime is to be who you are. So all these years after 1987, it was a journey of my lifetime. Like I said, it wouldn't have been the same. And that's where this little 12-second TikTok really kind of weaved itself into this podcast as I was planning this. Because by now you've tried being who you thought you should be. So now be who you want to be. Your inner dialogue becomes your second act foundation. And here's where this gets real. Research by psychologist Kristen Neff shows that self-compassion, not self-esteem, self-compassion is one of the strongest predictors of resilience and long-term motivation. And I'm going to repeat that. Self-compassion is one of the strongest predictors of resilience and long-term motivation. Let that sink in. Because for me, again, not telling you what to do, the way I found that compassion was through meditation. It was through sitting with myself quietly and alone and learning to love myself, all of my flaws, all of the things that I used to say negatively about myself, which is crazy because I would never speak to somebody the way I speak to myself. And I know so many people who do the same thing. You say such dreadful things about yourself. You wouldn't talk to other people like that. So it's not confidence. It's not ego. And certainly not comparison. The way you speak to yourself during change determines how you move through it. And like I mentioned earlier, meditation really helped me with that. And you know what else helped me? And I don't have this book with me because I lent it to somebody. Honestly, Mel Robbins' high five theory. A lot of people, it has mixed reviews. Some people didn't love it. What I really truly liked about it, and I did it, and I still do it. I go up to the mirror in the morning after I wash my face, and I do give it a high five. And at first it was awful. I couldn't do it. I really couldn't. Besides the fact that it's first thing in the morning, and it's like I was at it looking and saying things, and then I realized it was hard to try to find something nice and positive to say, but I kept at it and I kept doing it. And then I kept being motivational and positive to myself. And I put it toward the intention of the day. And it really did work. It really did work. Because before I started doing that, my inner dialogue, I don't know if yours did, but my inner dialogue, and if you're younger, I hope you don't say I'm too old. But if you're in your 50s like me, maybe you are saying, I'm too old. I should have had this figured out by now. Who do I think I am? Who cares? Who cares? Nobody else cares. And if other people are saying that, let them, to quote Mel Robinson, but really let them. They don't define you. If somebody doesn't like you, if somebody doesn't like your video, if who cares what they say? You just be you. My husband and I were watching a news program, and there was a conversation, and I'm not going to mention the channel. I'm not going to even mention who it was about because it is a very political news program, and they were talking about two political figures. And one is a political figure and one is a musician, and I'm not a fan of either of them. However, they've created this broship, and there's videos of them now out, recordings of them working out together. And even though my husband and I are not fans of them at all, I would never comment on them. That's why I don't even want to say who they are, because I don't want to say anything negative about them. The commentators who were commenting on one of their recent videos were saying it was cringeworthy. It was cringy. Why? They're just two men being themselves and enjoying that moment of what they're doing for their health, whether they're doing it a little tongue-in-cheek. Who cares if it's cringy? They're happy. And my husband kept saying that too. And I was just kind of listening to him and the commentary, and he was so right, because that's something I would say, who cares? If anybody's watching me, I don't care what you think. It's cringy. She's too old. Good. I'm glad. You can have your opinion. You know what? I'm still doing this. And more power to me for doing this. I'm not doing this for anybody else. I'm doing this for me. And for possibly I can help somebody who's feeling, like I just said, I'm too old. I should have had this figured out by now. Who do I think I am? Who says you should be saying those things about yourself? But I can tell you, as I force this voice to shrink within myself, it will shrink. This voice will shrink the moment your second act begins, or even a little bit before it. But if your inner dialogue sounds like, this is new, I'm allowed to evolve, it's okay not to know yet. And that is truth. I'm going to say that again. This is new. I'm allowed to evolve. And it's okay not to know yet. That voice builds safety, a foundation, security, and growth requires safety. So you cannot build a new chapter from an outdated identity. It's not about changing the person you are. It's just about changing how you think about the person you are. And I've said this before, the person you were got you to where you are. So you don't really want to change that person. You want to maybe change how you feel about that person, because that person is you. And you want to project a more positive outlook for the future you. So here's the truth, and there's still a future you. Whether you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, there's still a future you. I promise you. So here's the truth many women don't say aloud. You are not who you were at 35. I am certainly not. As I mentioned with that TikTok video, I would have had a different reaction to that, a total different reaction than what I said and then eventually wrote down about the TikTok video. Your tolerance has shifted. For me, it shifted from the first child to the fourth. Different children, different timing, growing up, adult, parent. My values have shifted. Oh my goodness, have my values shifted in even the past 8 years? They have changed. And not that they were bad, although I didn't do great things, not some things that I was maybe proud of. My values have certainly shifted in how I feel about that. Now, I don't dislike the person that I was. I have just learned to accept, to love, and to cherish that person because that person brought me here. And that definition of success has 100% shifted. But many people are trying to operate from the old programming, the old energy. It's that negative energy that ruins the present and your future self. You're still working on old expectations, old roles, old identities. You cannot build a fulfilling second act while you are clinging to that first act version of yourself. And if you think about it, if you were giving advice to, say, one of your grown children, you would give advice as now, not as of you then. So your second act is going to require curiosity, not judgment. Certainly not comparison, but curiosity for sure. Who am I now? Who am I now? What matters now? What feels aligned now? That's why I felt I was almost in that dream and woke up and spoke to my best friend on the phone and imagined myself in my old bedroom and saw my much younger version of myself as a teenager and my mom, and I was happy. And in part of what I had written down, my mother asked, "Are you a doctor in the future?" And I said, "No, but I help people because that's what matters." The love that I have shared with my husband for 36 years or no, 38 years, 36 years of marriage, of our amazing children that I manifested living by the bay, and I live by the bay, and that it brings me great peace and joy to walk down to the ocean every day or to the bay, and that I'm so close to the ocean every day. This is what matters, and that I get to help people figure it out. There's anything wrong with being a doctor, but it just wasn't in the cards for me. But I do love what I do. So, if no one were watching, and if you truly trusted yourself fully, what would your second act look like? Sit with that. Don't answer it quickly. Let it breathe. Meditate on it. Do it as I mentioned earlier. Do it in the quietness of yourself. No music, no television, no podcast. Just you. Whether you're meditating or just sitting in a comfortable chair thinking about you. Sip on this. Your second act doesn't require a brand new identity. It just requires a deeper relationship with the one you've always been. You know, it's that adage, you can't love anyone unless you love yourself. Truly. And if you're in that space where something inside you is shifting, but you're not sure what the next step looks like, that's the work I do every day. You don't have to navigate your second act alone. You could do it with a coach like me. And you can explore more at coachingwithmissd.com. But more importantly, this week, start listening to yourself, because the relationship that changes everything is the one you have with you. Please don't forget to give like or subscribe to Sip on This on YouTube, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts. And again, join me at Coaching with Miss D for more tools, coaching pricing, and learn free resources where you can learn more about a free discovery session. Till next time, keep sipping, keep growing, and remember, you are not behind, you are reinventing. So live your life as your authentic self, your version, no one else's.